We have witnessed massive opportunity opening up for mobility startups in India and around the world. We have seen some of these startup has tried to build their business around mobility as a service, while some of them trying to build a new kind of vehicle or the vehicle that will be part of future mobility. ET Auto as a key enabler, or you can say the leading knowledge platform for mobility industry, has taken the opportunity to build a unique platform where the investors, the innovators, future entrepreneurs, and the industry leaders come together and discuss the way forward for the future of mobility. Hello, I'm Nabil A. Khan, and you are watching ET Auto Startup Adda that comes to you every Tuesday at 3 p.m. In this episode, we have, like every other episode, we have one participant and we also have one expert who will be reviewing that participating startup. Today's participant is Zypp Electric. It calls itself a EV manufacturer, also EV logistic provider. I'll just try to understand from Akash Gupta, who is the co-founder and CEO of Zypp Electric, what is his plan. But let me also introduce today's expert that who is going to be with us and going to review this startup. We have here with us one of the very sharp minds in the mobility industry, Mr. Shashank Srivastava. He is the
Right.
Senior Executive Director at Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining ET
Thank you.
Auto as Startup Adda. Before we begin, let's hear from Akash what he has to offer. How does he differentiate himself or his company from several other delivery and logistic company that has come up in the EV space? Akash, over to you. You have 5 minutes to present your case, then we'll go to Shashank.
Sure. Thanks, Nabil, for the introduction. Hello, Mr. Shashank. Pleasure meeting you.
Hi.
Uh,
Pleasure.
and hello to the audience. Great to be here on this ET platform. Let me just quickly share my slides if you'll allow, right? 1 second. Or do I have to upload a file? I think. So, share screen. Yes. Yes, I hope my screen is visible.
Not yet,
Yes.
Akash. Yeah, now it is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So I'm building a company called Zypp Electric, which is a 4-year-old startup based in Gurgaon, with a mission, which is a very huge mission, Mission Zero Emission. Now, the world that we wish to solve for, and why I built this company, and building this for the last 4.5 years, is because I hate pollution. I want to solve climate change, which is imminent. You can see March temperatures rising to a level that you would not have liked ever again. And the rising fuel prices that we are talking and reading every day, 6 times fuel price hike in the last 1 week, and it'll continue to 100, the next year, right? So these are the three things that we want to solve. We know that policymakers, the Indian government, state governments, and the businesses are wanting to go electric, and they are, having subsidies, initiatives, everything happening in the favor of electric vehicles. But at the same time, while there's a push and there's a pull, the people and the adoption in electric vehicles is slow, because the problems are who will make the capex, how do you get the financing, who will set up the charging infrastructure. The people who are using these electric vehicles are waiting for the right product to come in, right? The maintenance is something which is not solved, and technical know-hows are also very low. How the battery gets charged, what is the technology behind it, those are problems that people face to go electric. And that's where we saw a line of opportunity. What at Zypp we wish to do is that we wish to accelerate last mile to go 100% electric by 2030. That's the explanation of our Mission Zero Emission. And how we do this, especially, is that we build a tech platform which brings the entire EV ecosystem together. So we bring the best vehicles from the best OEMs in the country. We bring the entire charging infrastructure onto the single tech platform, and we ensure that the maintenance and care is also available to whoever is using these electric bikes, right? And hence we work with businesses as well as consumers. So one, we have a last mile delivery product which is on two-wheelers, where we deliver goods for businesses like a Grofers or an Amazon or a big basket for delivering goods on electric vehicles for them. Second, we have a bike subscription plan where people can pick up these two-wheelers and just take it on a day plan or a week plan or a month plan, and they can just do whatever they want to do. Right, a lot of delivery executives and individuals are using these rental plans that we offer. What we wish to create is the future of shared mobility in the country. Today, we are giving people day long plans on electric scooters. Over the next 12 months, we would want to offer one vehicle to be used by four people. So, what we are trying to do is we are telling people to not own vehicles, rather, just use it whenever they want to use it, either a 4 hour plan, or a 1 day plan, or a week long, or a month long plan. And in the future, we want to offer people electric scooters as well as electric cars if they're available to go from point A to point B and just drop off whenever they're done with that. So it's the future which is building globally. We want to build this in India. As the infrastructure builds us, as the technology improves, as we more do more tighter partnerships with people, we would love to save pollution, and we would love to save traffic with our shared mobility future. That is what, in a quick nutshell, I wanted to share about Zypp Electric. Happy to answer questions and thoughts here.
Thank you, Akash, for this short and crisp presentation. We understood the business idea, this which is largely focusing on shared mobility or mobility as a service. Before I go on and ask questions, I would like to bring in Shashank sir and want to understand what's your thought on this.
Uh, yeah, first of all, Akash, great and crisp presentation, very clear. And I think you have made the objective very clear. And I think that's very important to bring clarity in whatever business one is doing. So I have a couple of questions though, and probably some clarifications as well. When you are saying that you will source these scooters, these EV bikes from OEMs, you are planning to put in your own capital, or is it something that you will get a lot of people with capital to have some sort of a union to get this type of so what is it that you are planning?
Sure. So very good question. Thanks for the question, Mr. Shashank. So far, all the bikes. So we have a fleet size of about 3,500 bikes, and we are adding another 2,000. So roughly, we are talking about 5,000 bikes in our ecosystem. All of these are, as you mentioned, is on the latter side, where there are investors who have bought these bikes and two wheelers for us, basis our design, basis our make with our branding, and they have leased them to us. So we didn't invest a single capital that we raised from venture funding, or our own capital into these assets. The idea is to create a fully asset light infrastructure for now. Obviously, as we grow bigger, we might have a few bikes or a few products on our own books, but so far everything is fully leased, and we have enough and more capital or people available who are wanting to fund more and more of these bikes. So from 3,000 to 30,000, I think we can easily go, because there are people, almost 15 such fintech companies, who are wanting to lease these bikes to us to the tune of 1,000 to 2,000 per month. So that's how we are now expanding.
Oh, understood. And do you modify the product also as for it to cater to dropping of cargo and so on?
Yes. Yeah, so the product one, we work only with the OEMs whom we pass, right? So there's a contract that we do with the OEM partner, with specifics to the design, specifics to the connectors that they use, the batteries that they use, the BMSs that they use, and a few of those specifications are directed by us. All the bikes that we deploy today run 120 kilometer. That's part of the customizations that these OEMs do for us, and we don't work with many. We work with one or two who are the largest OEMs in the country. Then what we do on top of it is that we add our own IoT layer on every vehicle to ensure that the vehicle is fully controlled by our app, right? There's a geofencing tech that we place on it. There's sensors which track the speed the driving behavior of those bikes, the battery data comes to us, and the charging data gets linked to that vehicle, so that the driver who's riding this electric vehicle is fully trained on where to charge, how to use, how to disconnect, and stuff like that. So yes, all of that data lies with us, and the control of the vehicle lies with us.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that's good. That's good. I was just wondering when it comes to the charging infrastructure, and one of the things which is key to building up volumes in
Yes.
this sector, even if it is only for last mile connectivity. And I think you just mentioned 120 kilometers as the daily run on a charge, I think. How
Correct.
do you address that? You will be having swappable batteries, and how will you manage that? Do you have centers where you will have these fleets lined up after you take
Yes.
them from the investors?
Yeah, so one, we do a full fleet management after the investors, buy these bikes for us. Then the entire fleet management is done by Zypp. We have multiple hubs where these bikes, get placed. Obviously, one large hub in every city, which is our IoT fitment, our R&D, and our maintenance hubs. But we have smaller hubs across the city which makes people access to these hubs, right? So if anyone wants to go electric in a Malviya Nagar or a Lajpat or a Gurgaon or a Noida, there's a hub available. They can go, they can learn about it, they can just subscribe through the app and then go on. And these hubs also act as a maintenance point for these closer bikes which are around that. The second thing that we do, is sorry sorry the second thing that we do is to ensure that this fleet is tied to this person who's using this, right? So there's a tight fitment through the app, as I mentioned, so it's belonging to a mobile number to an individual. And then for the charging, what we have done, since these bike run 120 kilometers, and a typical run of any person, even if it's a delivery executive or if an individual, is about 120 kilometers. So we offer them a good bike which can run 120. Then on top of it, we've set up a lot of charging points in the city, right? These are IoT enabled charging sockets where you can go into a big basket hub or an Amazon hub, or closer to restaurants. We've set up places where there's a plug point where if in the daytime you want to charge, you can just scan the QR code and charge the bike. On top of it, we've also partnered with 2 3 swapping companies, which is on if someone wants a very hot swap, right? He's in the need of the hour, then he can just quickly pick the get the bike and take it to the swapping station, take a fully charged battery which can do another 60 70 kilometers, and then he's done with it. So we've kind of done a merging of everything which is running in the ecosystem. One, he can charge the bike at home because everyone is getting a charger, right? So overnight he can charge the bike and run 120 kilometers. Second, we have given him multiple sockets where he can go during the daytime and charge the bike if he has the time. Third, we've partnered with swapping companies so that he can just take a hot swap and run in the need of the time, right? So that's how we are currently solving it. And as the ecosystem builds up, we'll continue to enhance this.
Yeah, yeah. So good thinking, and I hope this charging thing works, because that seems to be one of the big bottlenecks, especially for passenger vehicles. But for two-wheelers, maybe it's a little less because you can have swappable batteries. That sort of thing can work for two-wheelers, and I'm sure you would have thought about it.
Correct.
Just a couple of questions, if Nabil allows me more time. Just a couple of questions. That is on the finance side, which is we have this concept of carbon credits, which
Yes.
which would come through for companies who are replacing old technologies and using new ones which are more sustainable, or which are on the pollution front much better, like the ones which you are suggesting. Today people might be using a motorcycle, a powered a ice motorcycle, or some such thing which might be more polluting, and therefore use of EVs would probably earn some carbon credit points. Of course, the system is still developing. So, do you think that your system, you would be pricing this accordingly? Because alternate to this, I mean, that's a big decision point for many customers, especially
Yes.
companies, like you showed
Hmm.
Zomato, or I think Swiggy, or
Hmm.
someone you showed there on
Correct.
your screen thing.
Correct.
So they might be very interested in carbon credits. So
True.
have you thought on those lines, or I see, for example, Akash, in Bombay, for example, I observed just a couple of days back. There are now hoardings which are run on solar power, and
Yeah.
companies who take those hoardings will actually, because it's they are using products which are less polluting, or they are emitting less, on the emission front much lesser, they
Hmm.
can get
Hmm.
carbon credits, and therefore they will get good money out of it, and therefore the pricing can be accordingly fixed. Have you thought in that direction?
Oh, yes. So we've been thinking about it since we've been into this for the last 4.5 years. We've kind of tried to cover the entire, cycle of EV ecosystem. And yes, you're right. Towards the end comes the carbon credit and also the recycling piece, right? So we've not directly worked on it, but deliberated a lot. So a few things that we learn is this is a double bottom line business in that sense, right? So one, we have a business bottom line, and then there's a carbon credit, which is something that we can get and that can monetize more. So case in point, I learned from someone that Tesla's 2 years back, Tesla's biggest revenue stream was carbon trading, not the sales, from the selling of cars, right? So I think there's a lot of value there. And that is the only reason why most of these businesses are also wanting to work with us, because they want to save their emissions and get their ESG norms also certified, right? But the problem is that in India, this carbon trading and the entire carbon index is not present as of now, right? There are global exchanges like Carbon Trading Exchange (CTX), which is in Europe. There are companies which are certifying the carbon that you are creating, like there's Vera and Gold Standard, which are again European companies. But yes, in India, it's yet to come. However, we posted this as an initiative to the PMO recently, right, during the National Startup Awards, which we were a part of, right? And we posted that we would need something like that, and we got a reference from the government that there is work which is already happening on the Indian Carbon Trading Index, and I hope that sooner than later this will come into the play, and we will be offering the carbon saved by the companies to them in that case.
Absolutely, it will come. So that's a very positive thing for your business. I was just wondering whether you would take it as a profit stream, or something which will help you price it better, and therefore on the volume, something which helps you on your volume front, on the revenue front, rather than just pure profit. The other thing which I had in mind was that this technology battery thing is still developing, and battery
Yes.
costs have been coming down. The battery cell cost, the because of the chemistry changes, and also the economies of scale. So are you not seeing a risk that once you have uh, or do you think people will keep changing the to a new technology, where maybe you have cheaper battery cell technology available? So is that
Hmm.
not a risk for your investors, because you would be promising your investors certain return?
Correct.
Have you thought
Yes. So
about
so
that?
what? No, definitely. Again, a valid point. See, one thing is that the entire EV ecosystem will continue to evolve. What has happened in the IC engine ecosystem has taken 80 to 100 years to build, right? The EV ecosystem will take at least the next 20 years to get to the final standpoint, right? But we, being a startup or as a nation, we can't wait till that time, is what we took as an action item, that while the technology will continue to evolve, we will continue to move on the cheaper technologies. But whatever we are sourcing now, right, this month when I onboard the 1,000 bikes, they should be on the latest technology. Next month or next quarter when I order the latest inventory, it should be on the latest technology, with an intent that the current buying works with a 3-year warranty, right? So whatever I'm buying today is the best technology and at the best price, with a warranty of 3 years. So it will not just go bad in a year. It's just that if there's a better technology, and that's also something which is unanswered. You never know. The ecosystem will have costlier batteries or cheaper batteries, but it's time which is gonna tell these things. But what we will continue to remain on is the creation of the ecosystem and the acceleration of electric mobility for the world, which which will continue to happen in the way that we are.
Yeah, but Akash, but just a point of caution here, because
Ji.
whenever the technology is fast changing, especially EVs is one clearly one
Yes.
such area. Normally,
Yeah.
the returns on which you promise to the investor, how people
Hmm.
hedge against this changing technology, especially the startups are, they will not
Hmm.
promise a long term return on this, like not promising a
Hmm.
fixed long term return. So
Hmm.
it is
Hmm.
like or shorter, because that takes care of the fact that on a shorter period you can have newer technologies, and that should
Hmm.
be clear to the investors who are actually putting in capital, because as I see, you are developing just a
Correct.
platform. It's an app which brings
Correct.
together the
Yes.
user on one side and the capital
True.
suppliers on the other. So that's one way you can
No,
consider if you
absolutely.
want.
No,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
absolutely right. And which is why we are not manufacturing anything. We are not manufacturing
yeah,
the vehicle. We're not manufacturing the battery. We remain asset light, and hence, we'll continue to evolve with technology. Also, all the bikes that we have, for the investor benefit, what we try to do is to kind of depreciate it within 3.5 years, right? Which is actually the warranty cycle of that product, right? So the investors are well aware that even if the bikes go off in 3 years, the business is profitable, which is the salience that we've already done in the on the model.
Yeah.
okay. Nabil.
Yeah, Shashank sir. So, as like every episode, I just want to understand how will you rate Zypp Electric when it comes to scalability, when it comes to affordability, or you can say the viability in India, looking at this business. Yeah, Shashank, I think we lost connection with the Shashank, sir. We'll try to establish connection again. In the meantime, I just want to understand, Akash, what are your international or aspirations? Do you have any international aspirations, and how are you working on that?
Sure, Nabil. So we are living in a country which is full of vehicles. 82% of our vehicles which the country has have two-wheelers. The second key point is that we have 22 of the most polluted 30 cities in the world, right? And we are the second most polluted country in the world. So I feel that at least for the next 2 years, my sheer focus is going to be to solve for Bharat, right? Solve for our country, how we can eliminate IC engine vehicles, how we can shift people to adopt electric vehicles. But yes, for to answer your questions, we definitely have global aspirations. We always have investors who have access to Southeast Asia market, a European market, or the US or LATAM. We would be very open to because one thing is very clear: if we've solved this in India, then we can solve this in the world, because India, we have INR. In the world, wherever I go, we'll have dollars, and my unit economics will be much better. So we have the eye to the world solving for India, which can be replicated globally.
Okay. Akash, I'll just give reminder to all the viewers. We will take up questions directly to Akash. If you have any of them, please do post it in the comment box. My team will forward it to me, and I'll definitely look at them and ask to Akash also. Akash, how many vehicles are on the road right now? Because I read somewhere you said that by this year you will have 100,000 electric vehicles on road from Zypp. Just want to understand how are you going to ensure that, because the market itself is right now very small, and we have seen as the vehicles are coming out on the roads, we have seen multiple challenges coming up, in terms of safety and all. How are you going to ensure, which are the brands you are currently working with?
Sure. So yes, right now, if you say over the next 30 days, while right now about 3,500 to 4,000 vehicles running on ground, and in the next 30 days it will be 5,000. So I'll say that around 5,000 vehicles already there on the platform, right? Yes, we have huge plans because we have just touched, Nabil, we've just touched Delhi NCR right now. Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, and a small part of Hyderabad is what we've touched with these kind of vehicles. we can very quickly replicate what we are doing in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Hyderabad, in Chennai, in Kolkata. We are already launching Bangalore and Mumbai as we speak. So yes, our plan is very aggressively ramping up to about 50,000 vehicles over the next 12 months, and 100,000 vehicles over the next 18 to 24 months. That's definitely on
I
the
just
roadmap for
want
us.
to understand. You talked about leasing. So how does it work? Can you tell me the what is the
Yes.
business model like? The OEMs directly give leasing to the users, or how does it work? We'll go to that question, but before that, let me ask the question that I was asking Shashank. Sir, thank you so much for joining back. Sorry, we
Yeah.
lost the connection because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
some.
There was some problem. Yeah, on my end.
So I just wanted to understand how will you rate Zypp Electric when it comes to scalability, affordability, and business viability in India? They have very huge ambition. Akash was just saying that he will have 50,000 vehicles on road within 12 months. And we have seen the challenges on the production side also there. We have seen the challenges on the safety aspect of electric two-wheeler. So how do you see this?
So on scalability, Nabil, I think the model is very much scalable because the last mile thing is, to my mind, quite simple. If you have a good platform, which I'm sure Akash has developed and will continue to develop. So I think that last mile demand is pretty strong, and in the new retail environment which we see in the households, as also yeah, the requirement for transport, the last mile mobility will continue to flourish, I'm sure. So on scalability, I think it's I would rate 8 or 8.5 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm not giving 9 or 10 is because I also believe that he will require a lot of investment, or at least get a lot of investors to get into this sort of thing, if he has to really scale it up. On the affordability part, I think it's great. I see a little bit of risk in terms of the changing technology, and that is why I would say about 7.5 out of 10 on that as well. And on the viability, I'm sure it's a great viable model. I do not know the exact percentages, etc., for usage of the platform, or what promise of returns to the investors. I think it will be a fine balance which Akash has to make. Otherwise, as a overall, the viability is great, but we have to look at the individual viabilities from the investor point of view, from the customer point of view, it's fine, and also from the platform provider point of view, that is Akash, that is Zypp. So there, I would rate him at around maybe 8 out of 10.
Shashangi, we have seen that the subscription model in car space did not work much. People cited that it is very costly. Do you think that will work in two-wheeler space when Akash talks about? But what interesting, or I think a good idea that he has explored is the subscription on daily basis or weekly basis, or the micro subscription model that is he is introducing in two-wheeler, which is not the case in a car. So
Correct.
just want to understand, will this be an option that will work out in India?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it's very much so, but it would require some time to incubate, because we found in cars also the number of inquiries which we get for subscription are huge, both from the elite users, which is who want to change their cars every 2 years or so, or the aspirers who cannot afford initial down payment or a financing. Or the convenience seekers, people who change cities because they are in transferable job, etc. So as a concept, I think everybody appreciates. It's a new concept, and therefore in cars, it hasn't really converted into those many number of sales. We do only about 110, 115 vehicles a month, which is of course fairly okay when you compare with the overall thing. But the number of inquiries are very large. Conversion rates are around 1%. So that is our problem at the moment. The change of the mindset, I think the change of mindset would be required in two-wheeler also. But there is an advantage, as you pointed out. In two-wheelers, you have Akash's model includes a very short-term, in fact, with few hours also he mentioned, I think 3-4 hours also. So that's a very positive thing, which is something which passenger vehicles are not able to do. So that's one good point which I see. So it's more workable here, I think. But it's going to take some time. I feel going forward. So the other thing for cars, Nabil, and I don't know whether Akash is the same applies to two wheelers. I'm not really a good expert on two wheelers, but for cars, one of the things is if we can get used cars into the subscription model, that will bring down that cost element, the rental part, which the leasing part, which is what is holding back some of the customers, as we can see from the lost case analysis. So I think that works. If there's something which Akash can work out, I think it's quite possible to have a successful leasing model in this case.
Okay, superb. Viewers, Shashank San is going to be with us for next 10 minutes. If you have any question, post in right now. I'll pose those questions to him. Akash, you talked about 50,000 vehicles to be on road. Just want to understand what is the average, cost of subscription right now, or price of subscription for a weekly or for a daily basis, or whatever hourly basis. Can you give us a sense so that we can compare how it is going to be different from owning a two wheeler than subscribing a two wheeler?
Sure. Yeah. So today, what we offer people is a rental plan which starts at as low as 140 rupee a day, right? That's the pricing on a two wheeler, which can do 120 kilometer mileage, right? So you're almost a rupee per kilometer, right? A little higher than that is what we are offering people to pick up the bike and just do whatever they want to do, and that's why this is currently, and still at that pricing, we are after reducing all the operational cost, we are still making 25% contribution margin in the business. Gross margins are also very high, almost 50 to 55% gross margins. So that's how we are operationally profitable, not using capital to buy bikes, not using capital to do crazy money down the drain. But we've been sensible, and that is what we always wanted to be as a startup. While we've taken 4 years to get here, but the idea was to not burn the money and die. But the idea was to build the ecosystem, which would have taken some of the time to build the charging, the battery, the OEM, the infra. The user perception is still a journey in the progress, as Mr. Shashank also very rightly mentioned, that people picking 4 hour, 6 hour hourly plans is something that we intend to do. But that is something that we would want to do when the world is ready for it, right? Rather than just jump into it and offer when India is not graduated as a country, or
Okay.
the economy or the culture with that. So that's our plan, to be very frank.
How much you have raised so far? You have raised about $10 million, right?
That's correct. We've raised so far about 10 million.
What's your next plan?
Well, we are talking to some large, venture capitalists, and the idea is to, go for a larger Series B now. We're almost, looking at about a 50 million kind of a raise, right? Which is something that is going to happen over the next few months. So yeah, so definitely the idea is to go to a, huge revenue run rate of about 200 million, to touch, the top key cities of the country, about 25, 30 cities, deploy about 200,000 bikes in this process. That's what we are gunning for.
I have several questions to ask, but for last few episodes, I have not been able to take the questions from the audience. I'll this time try to accommodate as many questions as possible from the audience. Let me take the first question from Vishal Gelot. He wants to understand: is there any specific or standard size of battery that will help to exchange battery with other brand batteries also?
Sure. So, good question. What is happening in the battery space? And you would have heard in the recent budget from the finance minister that there's a lot of standardization which the government is planning to introduce easy swaps between different brands. But at the same time, it's just one thing which is important for battery swap to happen. In a very crude way, I will explain. One, your scooter should have a battery box which is bigger, so that you can take a smaller or a larger battery with some padding. The second thing which is important, the connectors should be the same, right? So most of the companies which are working on the two-wheeler space, especially, are working towards standardized connectors, which is Anderson or something like that, and hence two-wheelers are fairly easy to solve. Some of the companies are also working on the three-wheeler space, and a lot of swapping is already happening as the people shifted from lead acid to lithium ion via these shared platforms which
Hmm.
are doing swapping. So yeah, it's just a
Okay.
matter of time when all of these things will be solved for the larger masses.
Akash, for the interest of viewers' question that we take higher number of questions, I would request if you could keep your answer a bit short.
Sure.
Next question comes from Umang, and he is from Maruti Suzuki. He wants to understand how do you plan to take advantage of economy of scale in EV technology and battery technology? Who do you consider your competitors, and what are the entry barriers to ongoing business? Both
Okay,
of you,
so
if you
yeah,
could
one of
answer.
the
Yeah.
yeah, I think the technology is going to become the biggest barrier, because what we are trying to create is a platform where everything is integrated. On top of it, it will be the most scalable platform because it has the maximum number of vehicles which are electric, and the maximum number of users who are using these vehicles. So I think these three are the largest differentiators as we scale, right? And what was the other question, Nabil?
Uh, just a sec. So the other question, whom do you consider your competitor?
Okay, so right now the EV industry is such a nascent industry at the moment. I don't see anyone as a competition. I think everyone who's trying to work towards the EV services, or OEM or a battery, everyone is an ecosystem, right? So I know everyone in the ecosystem who's building, trying to solve problems, and it's too early to call it a competition. Our real competition is the fuel users, or people who are still on the pollution side.
So next question comes from Manish Kumar. He wants to understand you are targeting zero emission, or you are targeting a zero carbon footprint. So you know that
Yes,
India has a larger share of power generation coming up from the fossil fuel. In such a case,
correct.
are you planning to charge your vehicles through a renewable energy? Or before I go to you, Akash, to understand answer from you, Shashank, sir, how do you see this zero emission? Is it a myth or it is truth? Electric vehicle, can this be a zero emission when we see the power generation is heavily dependent on fossil fuel? So is it just
Yeah, yeah.
cutting scale pipe or what? Your thought.
Yeah, so yeah. So actually, what is being commonly discussed in the media and in the general talk in the industry is the tank to wheel pollution. And tank to wheel pollution, of course, for EVs is very minimal. However, when
Hmm.
you talk of well to wheel, then depending on the country and depending on therefore the source of electricity generation, it could be quite different. For example, if it was coal based electricity generation, it is possible that well to wheel for electric could be actually higher in terms of emission compared with even an ice vehicle. But for energies which are generated based on nuclear or based on wind energy or based on more or solar energy, it is possible that even well to wheel electric vehicles will obviously have close to very small emission. Zero, of course, looks like a myth at the moment, and definitely the at some point of time the discussion in the world will start shifting from tank to wheel emission to well to wheel emission. And I
Okay.
think that is where we will find people saying that for EVs and for battery disposing, for battery making, for electricity generation and electricity consumption, we must look at not only just the usage part, which is vehicle, but also the making of the electricity itself. That will also come under the lens at some point of time in the future.
Akash, your thought quickly.
So very rightly
Will
said
you use
that.
renewable energy to charge the vehicles?
Definitely. I mean, we are still exploring that how all our charging points, all our big yards can be solarized. We are looking forward to that. But to answer a quick one on that, that at least one thing we are doing, Nabil, is that we are shifting the pollution generation from the roads to at least the places where the electricity is being generated. I think there's a plan for the government also to move to solar, wind, and water based renewable sources of energy, and that's the energy generation. But at least the pollution is not happening where we are living when you move to electric vehicles.
Let me take another question quickly. This is Azhar Gutti. He wants to know how can you help people understand that EV are safe and the provides proper. If we provide proper BMS system to manage the vehicle, what are the proper BMS system that we can use? We have seen fires and not so good events happening of late. What are the measures you are taking to deal with that, and which are the battery cathode chemistry that you think is safe, and what are the main challenges that is causing these kind of events?
Sure. Yeah, so that's quite unfortunate. I know that while we are talking about a revolution, still, the technology is not fully proven, and there are some, threatening cases which are happening. We've actually studied this. Being in 4 years in this space, we've been studying the chemistries, and hence so far, one thought that we've taken is that we've stuck to LFP as a chemistry, which is lithium, phosphorus, ferrous, is the chemistry that we picked versus an NMC. We had to leave a few things because NMC is usually more agile and smaller and more pocketed and lighter, versus LFP being a little heavier and larger in size. But for the safety, running such a large fleet, we wanted to ensure that we remain safe and ensure that safety of users who are using our bikes, and we continue to remain on that front, that we would remain with LFP till the time we don't find full safety on the other battery chemistries.
Okay. Next one, Shashank sir, for you. What are the plans of Maruti for scrappage or exchange of old vehicles in lieu of new electric vehicles? Hope you heard the question. This is Vijay Kumar Arora. He wants to understand what are the plans of Maruti for scrapping exchange of old vehicles in lieu of new electric
Hmm.
vehicles. Will you take the ICE engine vehicle and give them a new electric vehicles?
So these are two separate businesses. One is scrapping, is a different business, and as you know, we have Maruti Suzuki has got has made some subsidiaries which will take this business of scrapping separately. And of course, I must say that scrapping is not an easy business. While in India, it's happening on the roadside generally, where people just throw away whatever material is not being recycled. But this is a very specialized industry where you have to take care of all the material which is being scrapped, and also make sure that most of it is recycled, whether it is plastics or metal or such thing. And how to dispose of those materials which cannot be recycled is another very important thing. And Maruti Suzuki is at the moment preparing exactly for that business, and because we believe with the scrappage policy, this number of vehicles coming for scrappage will be increasing going forward. As regards the new car to be given, that's of course a separate business, which, irrespective of the scrappage, we are preparing to get EV also into the market.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shashank sir, for joining ET Auto Startup Adda. I know that you
Thank
have
you.
another meeting to catch up. Thank you so
Yes.
much once again. We'll take the
Thanks.
conversation forward with Akash.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. And all the best wishes, Akash.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shashank. Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Shashank, sorry, Akash, I just want to understand. You talked about the business model. Just want to understand leasing one that we left the question unanswered. How does it work? Like, suppose an end user. How do I lease it? Who owns the product and all that? Who pays for the product? How does it work? And in terms of revenue, how is it divided the share?
Sure. Yes. So we have investors who buy a bike, and they can buy 1 to 200 to 1,000 bikes. To once they buy the bike, they give the bike to Zip, and then the responsibility of the bike and the branding of the bike is all Zypp. It's under our custody. Now, what is the investor interest in it is twofold. One, the investor is getting almost an 80 to 20% return, right? So I'll give you an example. An investor invests 65,000 in one bike. We deploy that bike into our own fleet. The investor starts getting return close to about 2,200 per month. This return is for 36 months constantly coming into your bank account. After 36 months, we also give you an assured buyback at 10% residual value. So net the investor has made close to 20% XIRR in this entire process. And it's almost like you invest in mutual funds, you invest in stocks, you invest in real estate. This is a new asset class of sustainable mobility or sustainable vehicles that you're investing. That's why the investors like this proposition.
What's your long-term target in terms of your revenue? Where do you see
Sure.
yourself 5 years down the line?
So frankly, as per my business model, as per my expansion plan, 2026, I should be at about 500 million ARR. That's the plan that I'm gunning for, right? Which is I would say almost a 50x jump of where I am, but I think we'll definitely get there in terms of hitting a 500 million ARR. And the good part is that we'll be at a 44% EBITDA positive when we get there, which means that we'll be a profitable business. We'll be one of the largest brands in the country, which is delivering electric promise to anyone who wants to adopt shared mobility.
What is your current valuation? How do you see your current valuation of the company? Suppose some investors are watching this right now, if they want to put the money, at what valuation you are currently looking at, and at what valuation you raised the $10 million?
So frankly, the valuation numbers I won't be able to disclose over the call. But if there are investors who are interested to reach out, I'm at very well available on LinkedIn, on social media. My email ID is available. Akash@zypp.app. Happy to connect with people on that and discuss the growth plans. Because I don't think that anyone would just invest looking at me on this call. They would want to understand more about the business and
What
more.
is the toughest question? What is the toughest question you have been asked so far by your investor, and that has been difficult for you to answer or ascertain so far?
See, one of the things that investors would be wary about is electric mobility because it's very new, right? So I think it's not about having a conviction into us, it's having conviction in electric mobility or electric ecosystem in the country is what an investor would be slightly waiting or watching. But an investor has to understand that EVs has to happen, and it's a matter of time that such disruptions will happen. So obviously most of the investors are liking what we are doing. They're loving to partner in our growth story, and it's just a matter of time, Nabil.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akash, for joining ET Auto, a startup Adda, a station for innovation. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to ET Auto. Hope
Thank
you
you.
continue reading ET Auto for all kind of insights, updates, and breaking news on automobile and mobility industry. See you next week with another startup founder and expert. Till then, take care. Goodbye.